Well, we might as well call the meeting to order a little bit early, 1:55, I guess it is. Trudy, could you please do the roll call?
McTomey. Yeah, here. Sheets.
Here.
Civil.
Here.
Swanson.
Here. Thank you. Can we stand for the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mr. Zibble, will your back prohibit you from reading our mission statement?
Certainly. Laketran is committed to providing quality public transportation services to all Lake County residents, with special emphasis on meeting the transportation needs of seniors and people with disabilities.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I don't believe we have any public comments. Okay, and then so we can move to approval of the minutes of our January 17th meeting, I believe it is, right?
Yes.
May I have a motion?
Move to approve minutes.
Thank you. A second? Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you. Okay, items for review. The pre-construction meeting minutes and draft schedule. We don't have to take any action on that, correct?
That is correct. I just wanted to get it to you in case anyone wanted to see it. I did make a copy of the draft schedule that you all have in front of you, just in case you wanted a larger copy to review, but it is in Govenda. We'll probably create a folder to put all that stuff in going forward, so you all have access to it easily whenever you want it, unless you'd like another format.
This is fine with me. Any other comments? Any other thoughts on it from anyone?
Looks like a good one project schedule.
Yeah, they haven't updated it yet, so this is the latest one I have, but yeah, sorry.
I
Now-
see overhead doors here at in October of 23. Are those the fast overhead doors?
No, there is one overhead door in the new maintenance bay that gets installed.
Okay, well, no, it was okay.
Oh, sorry. No, those
Do
are,
we have the new ones yet?
no, they got delayed another month.
Oh, Jesus.
I don't know where they come from or are made out of, but they are kind of ridiculous as far as I could text Keith and ask him to come up, give you an update if you like.
Nobody else seems to care. Why should I?
We care. It's just that there's,
I'm talking about the vendors.
oh, well,
Yeah, welcome to the supply chain issues.
yeah, the doors you see on here are not the high speed doors.
So that leads me into, I don't know if this is new business, old business, or we can just talk about it now. You had advised me that the regular construction review meetings are going to be on Wednesdays.
Yeah, as of right now, they've been scheduled for Wednesday at 10 a.m. On a recurring basis, 10, 11, let me double check, 10.
Okay.
So
would it be your intent to obviously hold minutes of those and then share them with the committee, or what were your thoughts on that?
yeah, there are minutes created for every meeting. It'd be very easy for us to post them into Govenda into a folder for everyone to see, or email them to everyone if they would like them, sort of whatever format you would prefer.
Okay, this is sort of a combination of, I guess, 7 and 8 then on our agenda, but how do you feel about how we want to handle that? The ongoing meetings, what our roles ought to be, if any, and do you or do you not want to see weekly minutes, notes? I think, we really sort of need to define what we think our role ought to be as a committee forward from this point, if any.
Just a question, Gary, is the following through the construction really part of what was assigned to us? And the definition of when we were set up as a special projects committee?
Well, you're asking me to remember something, Chuck, and that's
That's the same
a
with my
difficult
problem.
thing.
Yeah.
My guess is it wasn't specifically mentioned, but my assumption all along has been that we were sort of on the hook for the duration.
Mm.
But I don't know that it was ever spelled out specifically. Do you have any recollection of that, Ben?
You know, I don't. I think the board, if I remember right, and I can go back and watch the YouTube or something, it was the main objective at the time was to shepherd the project to the either let's build it or not build it step. And I don't think there was any real discussion after that. Not that there couldn't be, but I don't remember any, but that doesn't mean that it didn't happen.
No, I guess I'm in agreement with that. I don't know that it was ever defined when we would cease our meetings.
I think that is correct, if we didn't think of the time. Definitely it was to shepherd the project through. A yes or no?
My only thought going forward is, we probably should be reviewing change orders. So that everybody understands it, so it could be presented to the full board, so we don't get bogged down in, oh my God, this is a lot of money, what are we doing here? So beyond that, I don't know what anybody else's thoughts are. And I say that because we ended up not really creating other committees. So that kind of puts us on the hook to do some oversight and pay attention to this without getting down into the weeds.
I guess my response would be to say that we ought to probably get that clarified by the full board. I'm
I'm
not,
sorry.
my response to your comment about continuing on or any discussion about continuing on, since none of us are exactly sure that when we were supposed to cease operation, so to speak, maybe that's something we have to get full board input on. I'm just throwing that out there. I don't know.
I wouldn't disagree with you, Gary, but question for Donna would be is how much do you want to redo on reviewing of the change orders, and at what point in time in the process of change orders being proposed and approved do you want to be involved?
I'm going to put this back to Ben. A change order of any amount has to come before the full board, correct?
No, the board approved a contingency as part of the project, and as long as anything takes place below the total amount, it would in theory not have to be approved by the board. Not that it couldn't be reviewed.
Okay, so I was under the impression that it would have to be approved by the full board, as it was during the initial process.
No, the board approved a do not exceed number, so we can operate below that number. If it were to go above that, then yes, it would require board approval.
That answers that. My initial thought was to attempt to keep us from getting bogged down at the board level if there was a lot of questions about any kind of change orders. But if it's staying below that amount, it may not be necessary.
Then would it be helpful if maybe you just kind of stepped us through what you see as the change order process? Maybe if you're prepared for that.
I can talk about what we've done in the past. There could be a change, but what we've done in the past is we've used CT to in a construction manager role in the past, and they handle all the initial communication with the contractors. Sometimes the change orders don't even come to us as the owner. They get stopped by CT. They say, this is never going to make it past, tough bananas. Then they'll bring them to us for review, and we will either approve them, deny them, request more information, or or modify what may or may not be asked. And then a log is kept of those along as we go along. And we monitor how much contingency we have and how much we are projecting with future change orders. We did in one case in Lakeland, we did come back to the board. We ran out of contingency and we came back to the board and said, this is what we are projecting. We need to finish the task. explained it to the board approved it, and we finished the project that way. So that's how it has gone in the past. We keep a log of every change. Sometimes they're positive, sometimes they're negative. You know, Wycliffe, we had a pretty substantial positive change order, which was they changed the thickness in gauge of the metal siding to the one gauge rating. I don't remember the exact number below what was specified, which saved us, I think, like $30,000. So, and then those go in the log, and kind of you keep a running total of your change orders at the bottom.
Where is the log kept? In
C-
notebook and CT's book?
CT maintains it, but we get a copy of it regularly. Anytime it's updated, our process is they send a copy to Andrea.
Would your plan be to make that available to the board every month?
Yeah, I mean, we'd make anything you would like available. I could include that in my CEO report. I could send it to the committee. I could, whatever you guys would like, I'm happy to do.
That would give us an opportunity at least to see how things are progressing in terms of the change orders. And if there's anything, I'm expecting a lot of them to be $15,000-$25,000 or maybe even less, but if there's something bigger than that, that would give us an opportunity to at least see that. And those, if it's larger than that, it's going to take a couple of months for them to get through anyway, to get to the approval process probably. So we would know before it was approved.
Yeah, I mean, usually we are pretty, I don't know what word is appropriate. We're sticklers for, but most of the time we don't view a change order as necessary unless there's some overriding condition.
Mhm.
One that we got in a heated discussion about with Wycliffe, which we refused to approve the entire time, was they perceived to be delayed due to winter weather conditions. But the start date that was provided in the contract was in February. And they said, well, it doesn't say we have to deal with winter conditions. And we said, you're starting a project in February in Cleveland. Do I need to write that down for you? And they kept saying they were owed money. We refused to pay the entire time and closed out the project without paying. So, like that change order might show up as a request from the beginning of the project all the way to the end and never be approved. That doesn't happen. That's rare to have that scenario, but it can happen.
Well, I do know that one of the things that was expressed to me by several board members was us in some fashion, not necessarily the committee, but the board, without hindering progress, being on top of the contingency issues, without defining what that meant, other than not getting to the end of this and say, geez, how did we get surprised by $4 million or something like that? So I do think that at some point, whether it's this committee, if it does go forward and we assume that as a responsibility, or whether it's some sort of report to the board, it has been expressed to me that there's concern that we need to monitor that contingency.
Yeah, it will be very easy for us, staff wise, to get that information to whoever would like it. It's kept in a running format. So whether it goes to the committee or the full board, it should be as simple as, sending an email or putting it in a folder or something.
Okay.
When that occurs, do you as management have the role of approving whatever the contingency is? I mean, it comes to you, they tell you what it is, what the cost is, and then you say yes or no?
Yeah, so if a contractor wants a change order, if they say, hey, I feel owed an extra $10,000 for site work or something, they will submit a request. What they're supposed to do is submit a request with documentation to CT Consultants as the owner's rep. They will review it. If CT views it to be appropriate, they will pass it along to us as staff. It usually goes to Andrea, and then I am the only person that can actually approve a change order in writing. So it is a written document that says we agree to give you X number of additional dollars if it is within the contingency. And so I can approve them or deny them, but I'm the only one that is allowed to change it because it is considered a slight modification to the contract. So it has to be Ben that does it.
How often do these things typically happen?
It varies based on the project. They are usually more pervasive when they're digging because they dig things up they don't know are there, or when they're opening up a wall. So we should expect to see more in the initial when they're excavating and doing foundations, and then it probably will wane for a little while. But it's unpredictable. You know, you can't say exactly.
And
And
when
Chuck
that-
might be able to give you better insight than me.
Well, when that occurs, how much turnaround time do you have? To comment on it, say yes or no, or whatever it is you need to do.
There's not necessarily defined timeline for them. Let's say they are digging and they hit a water line that was not marked or known or identified. That could be one where they say, hey, we hit this, we didn't expect it, we had to do a repair, and they tell us retroactively. And then we go look in the ground, review there was an actual problem, see their repair, and then we would approve it. Others, they say, hey, we have this future thing. We want you to consider approving. So it can vary quite a bit.
Well, it seems to me then that we have,
Need a process.
well, yeah, but that follows basically two issues that I see. One is, does the full board want a committee, not necessarily this committee, but a committee to somehow be the go-to group for the building project? Or do we disband as an ad hoc group now and the full board absorbs that responsibility? And then the subset of that would be how do we want to handle the contingency notification issues?
Well, I would think, correct me if I'm wrong, you've been through this, we haven't, but I would think that having a small committee that would take a look at this would be easier to get to and convene rather than wait for a monthly board meeting.
I think that's a valid observation. But I'm not sure that we have the mandate right now
I wouldn't think so
to
either.
make that process. I think we have to decide how the full board wants to handle our full board responsibilities going forward. I'm not sure I'm saying that clearly, but I think we've sort of run our mandate to the end, at least as I understand it. And so the full board, I think, has to consider what it wants to do going forward.
And how to approach doing it so that it doesn't slow down the project.
Correct.
Similarly, we've got the summary of your survey about the committees, but I don't know that we really decided what we wanted to do that, did we?
Yeah, my recollection is we decided that it was fairly clear that the full board wanted to remain as we have been,
Well, a
and use
committee
ad
of the
hoc
whole.
committee.
But we didn't really decide how we're going to do that, when we would meet or anything else. So these two kind of fit together.
We can certainly have that discussion at the next board meeting, I would think.
Sounds like both of those need to be discussed. How do you want to do this?
So would that come up under my report on the agenda, or would it come up under new business?
I think it could be either. I think you do have the opportunity, since you're here as a committee, to potentially recommend to the board what you think your role could be going forward, if you think this committee is the right place to review change orders. But that's up to the committee, really. I don't think the board will disagree that someone should review, especially some higher price change orders. And I personal opinion is they're going to turn it back to you guys.
Well, this is the time for anybody to jump ship who wants to jump ship, then I guess.
My opinion on it, Gary, would be really just to Ben, make a presentation on a monthly basis as to what the status of them is and give us a copy of here's what has been in process, here's what's been approved.
As a committee or as the full board?
as the board. I'm in the feeling part that the committee was structured to ad- understand what the project was about and the cost factors of it and make a recommendation to the board to go forward with the project, which we have done.
Right.
And now we're under contract. So I thought from that standpoint, we were done. We were also assigned by the president, the committee discussion, which I think we've completed that also pretty much with the survey that came out. So now that would be going back to the board also. I wouldn't want a committee or the full board getting into a position where they're saying yay or nay to every change order that comes through. There is some time element that has to be considered on that. If board then does slow down the process, we could make the contractor claim that he's been delayed.
Right.
I don't think we want to get into that. We've also authorized Ben up to a certain amount for the contingency amount. So we have felt comfortable that he would have that authority to go that high. And certainly, as he's indicated on other projects, when he's exceeded that contingency amount, he's had to come back to the board and get authorization for additional monies. So for me, I would be completely satisfied with just seeing a change order log on a monthly basis, or if it's available online someplace, you want to look at it in between meetings to do that. But at least being able to see what has been asked for and what the status of that is on a monthly basis. As long as we're within that contingency amount that was approved, I think that's what Ben is there for, is to make sure that money is spent correctly.
Okay. Any other thoughts on this?
Well, I think this committee is done. I think if we're going to have another committee or anything, it should be just a review committee, obviously. I don't think the full board wants to act as a review for the construction project. We have hired a owner's rep to do that kind of stuff, but I think a committee working with the owner's rep would make a lot of sense from the standpoint of just to make sure that they're on the same wavelength. And typical projects like this do have milestones, completion of this, completion of this, completion of this, which I think we need to report back to the, whatever we do, report back to the full board so that they understand what's going on. I don't see any need for a detailed type review every time. I do see some of the board as a committee, possibly like we have right now, being involved in the weekly meetings and things if they want to be. I'm not saying it's a requirement, but I think working with that owner's rep would make a lot of sense. I think there are other people involved too, aren't there, Ben? Other than Bill Gallagher, or don't they have some other people that,
For CT?
yeah,
Dan Bonham is heavily involved. And I forget the name. There's another name of a person. I
That's
can't
okay,
remember,
Dan.
but yes, is the
yes,
answer.
okay, there are other people, which
Yes.
is the point. So I think some part of the board should be involved in the whole thing. If it's a committee, I don't care, but certainly not the whole board. I mean, that's basically what I see. And a milestone, do we have any real milestones that we're going to be looking at?
Well, that's
You know,
what this is.
exterior, interior,
Yeah, there's not any contractual milestones other than the project completion, but that is sort of the objective of the schedule, is to say phase one will be finished at this time. So
okay,
the milestones in a way are the phases.
right. I mean, that make a lot of sense to at least have somebody come back and report to the full board during when phase one is done. The full board should be aware of, what was done in phase one and how it was accomplished, and were there any change orders, a summary of it, which is really what's needed for the board, the full board. I don't think they need to know every little detailed step,
Donna, any thoughts? Not so much just about the contingency, but about the structure going forward.
I would think that if it's their desire to have another group follow it, it would make the most sense for it to be the group that constituted this committee, because we're the ones that know the most about what's going on, rather than starting something entirely new. But I don't even know if they're really gonna want to do that, or if they just want more informal reports from Ben, things posted online. And if he goes over, if it's over a certain amount, then we have more of a discussion.
Well, then I guess what I would recommend, if you are comfortable with this, that during my report at the full board meeting, I will simply say that we've kind of come to the conclusion as a group that we've met our mandate up to where we believe it was clear, and that was to get approval on the building going forward, and that we're throwing this back to the full board to decide what kind of committee structure, if any, the full board wants to put together going forward as part of the construction project.
Agree.
Does that make sense?
The simple question is, how do you want to monitor the project going on?
Correct.
Want us to stay intact and do it and bring pertinent information to you? Or Ben commented some ways you could do it more informally.
Agreed. Okay, I guess we're all on the same wavelength then.
Yeah, because I would make the comment at board meeting that I think we should allow Ben to make the report on a monthly basis. If we want Gallagher here, is it in his scope to come to the board meetings and make updates?
I don't think on a monthly basis, but I could double check.
Okay.
I believe I remember reading something that we required him to make appropriate updates or something like that.
Yeah, I don't think I think if we wanted every month, he might say that's too much, but if it was every couple months, there's probably some gray area there.
Maybe we would leave that to your discretion, see when you should come in and talk maybe with Gary or somebody ahead of time and tell them what your thoughts would be.
Yeah, one of the other thing I wanted to mention, one of the other standard things we've done for construction in the past, which we plan to continue with this one, is to have a picture kind of, I don't know what the right term is, diary online, so that any of the public, but also board members, can see progress pictures, which some people find helpful.
Okay, so now just a subset question, and it has to do with sunshine laws issues. If one of these weekly meetings, a couple of board members show up, as I understand it, if two or more of us were to show up, that might be a problem in terms of sunshine. But these are published meetings anyway, correct?
Well, they're not public meetings.
They're not public.
They're pre-scheduled, but they're not public meetings.
Okay.
If the committee remained in existence,
Mhm.
like, so if the board said we want the committee to keep going, it could be no more than two of you. If the committee doesn't exist, then in theory, all four of you could come, because you would be representing the board, not the committee. So kind of the same thing. 4 other board members could also come, like Brian, Laura, Bill, and Daniela could show up, because they're not part of the committee, and only 4 of them is the board. So
But if we get to 5 people showing up, now we've got
5 people's always a problem.
Okay, so we as a board are going to have to be very aware of that. How if 5 of us say we want to show up for a meeting or a visit out on the construction site because something very important is happening. I don't know what it would be, but 5 folks want to show up and be part of that. How do you handle that?
2 meetings.
It gets turned into a special meeting. So you'd have to come in here first, start the meeting, and then essentially say you're in a meeting, but you're walking out to look at a thing. So you'd have to, it turns into a real meeting.
You don't have to film that part of it?
Not necessarily.
Okay, all right.
That would be probably not really, we would have to take minutes. So your discussions would have to be like in a group, and we'd have to record what you talk about, because you, like, let's say you wanted to try and take in theory, 5 people could take action. And so that would have to be sort of recorded. So it would be, I would strongly not encourage everyone to be there at the same time.
Right.
It could be different times throughout the day, or we as staff could provide a live stream on Zoom or something that you could watch, but not actually participate in a meeting. So
That's what I was just going to ask. Either do it that way, or if it's a meeting and we wanted to show up to hear what was being talked about, if we sat in the audience, does that still?
if there's 5 of you, it doesn't matter. If you're all here.
The number, it's
meeting.
not a matter of,
Because you have a quorum.
you're just sitting in the audience or not.
Yeah. I mean, now, if you all wanted to sit in the audience and we could still call it a special meeting and publish it and have it be a special meeting, and you could start it by starting off the special meeting, and then you could just listen. But it would have to be, you have to publish it. And Bridie can tell me if I've said anything wrong, but I mean, it's pretty rigid.
So I guess then we probably ought to have this discussion at the board level also, just to let everybody know that there is a complication.
Could be, yes.
Potential complication if there's an event coming up on the construction and all of a sudden everybody wants to go watch it.
Right. And it will be important to make sure that, because I don't want to say it's more complicated with the committee, but it's more restrictive because less of you can show up. So that I don't want that to change your opinion, but it's just something to keep in mind.
Well, that's why I brought that up about keeping this group, if there's to be follow through on this, to follow the project to its completion. That if it were still before, we don't have the problem of all 9 of us deciding we want to be there and in essence tripping over each other. So
We
mean, that might be a pro just to keep this group intact, to do the following, and either between you and Ben, you do a report, what's going on.
We did also have a live construction cam up at Wickliffe so that you could, on our website, anytime of the day, log into this portal essentially and see everything going on from that one camera. It was connected to Verizon and it just streamed all day long. So we still have it, so we could put that back up if there was any certain area the committee wanted, we can put it up and you could sit and watch it for 8 hours a day if you wanted to. I'm not sure anyone wants to, but that's also an option.
Maybe they could put it on Netflix or
I'll
something.
pass on that.
The other thing I would just keep everyone in mind is, it is going to be an active construction site that could be difficult to traverse at times. And you're gonna have proper PPE and they're pretty strict about hard hats and all that stuff. So it's another thing the board should be thinking about.
Yeah, well, I think it would be helpful to have this kind of discussion at the full board, just so everybody's aware of it.
So they know the parameters of what we've discussed and what we're looking at. And if you really want to get down into the weeds, there's challenges.
Correct. Okay. Any more comments on this part of the discussion? If not, I guess we'll move to old business. I don't believe we have any. And I guess we probably don't have any new business. So I guess we could use a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second,
Rudy?
McNamee,
yes.
Sheets,
Yes.
Swanson,
Yes.
Zibble.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a quick one.